standard number 9, a mad exciting read. Now, in this lecture, we're going to be really focusing on Common Core Standard RL 10.5, which pretty much says that after this, you'll be able to analyze how an author's choices are created when structuring a text in order to create mystery, tension, and suspense. The 3 tools of any great story, song, or movie. Now, how do you break it down like I'm 5? Well, you're going to break down the choices the author decides to use that create mystery, tension, and suspense. So, why do you have to learn this? Well, it allows you to understand and decipher what you read or what you watch. You'll kind of be able to know the tricks of the trade, and you kind of be able to make harder texts easier, or make those movies that are really confusing a little bit easier when you know the tricks that the author or the writer is using. Some things you need to know. 1, we're going to learn how an author uses these 5 strategies to keep you hooked. There's 5 essential strategies, and then there's 1 overall device that the author uses. VIP number 1, once you know, you can decipher any text. VIP number 2, remember the author's vision. The author's vision is to 1, make you keep reading, to hook you, to make it more mysterious, so that you'll be hooked, you'll be interested, so that you can learn the lesson the author wants to teach you in the first place. So, an author once again uses 5 devices strategically to create mystery, suspense, and tension. So, let's first go over what those 3 words mean. The first term, mystery. Mystery is something that's kept a secret or left unexplained or unknown. So, in a text or in a movie, an author may leave certain things unknown to keep you guessing, to keep you hooked. Already. Suspense is another key term that an author is going to use. This is why he's using these 5 devices in the first place. Tension refers to that tense feeling the reader gets when reading a story. So, tension is used by the author to create the feel-good or to raise the emotional level of the reader as you're reading to, once again, keep you engaged. And then lastly, suspense, the anticipation the reader experiences when to wait on something to happen. A good horror movie uses all 3, uses mystery, suspense, and tension. You know that feeling you get in a horror movie? When you know something is behind the door and you're waiting for the character to get there. That's suspense. Now, once again, these 5 devices create mystery, suspense, and tension to once again hook you, to keep you reading, and to leave the message. So let's talk about the 5 devices really quickly. The first one is plot. Plot describes the structure of a story. It's an arrangement of events and actions within a story. Now, any story can be told chronological, flashback, or in media res, which means in the middle of. There's some movies that you literally catch it in the middle. You don't know what happened before, but that creates, once again, suspense and mystery because it allows you to infer what you know. Now, an author uses plot to create moments of suspense, to escalate the tension, and to organize the mystery so the reader can solve the riddle. Now, there are 5 stages of plot. Exposition, rising action, the most exciting part of the story, the climax, the falling action, and then the resolution. The next device is setting. Setting is where it's going down. Setting tells us the where and the when of a story. For example, the Arctic winter, deep space, Quantico, Virginia, FBI, past, present, the future, a dark planet, a deserted island, a damp basement. All these are setting. And the author uses setting to give us a visual reference that the reader can relate to. And it visually creates tension and suspense for us. The very first time in The Dark Knight, there's a flashback where we go back to the past, where we see a young Bruce Wayne, and he's falling down a cavern, and he sees these bats, and all of a sudden he's in this dark place. That gives us a visual reference to suspense. What is going to happen next to Bruce Wayne? The next one is conflict. Bring on the struggle. Vip number 4, this is Big Mama. Now plot, that's kind of like Big Daddy. But this is Big Mama. Because without conflict, there's no story. Conflict is the struggle, is what keeps us hooked. When you have two characters that are constantly fighting, we want to know what's going to happen. We want to know how that conflict is going to be resolved. So the author uses conflict to drive the reader forward into the plot and to heighten the suspense and the tension. Now, typically there's two categories of conflict, internal and external. And there's 4 types of conflict that you should know. Man versus self, that's inside, internal. Then we have the 3 externals, man versus man versus society, and man versus nature. The 4th one, characters. Who's this? It's the characters. Every story requires them. They influence the plot. They make us invested. They prompt and they propel and intensify the conflict, and they're engaged in the plot. And they influence the reader. How do they influence the reader? They influence the reader to care, to feel motivated, to want to keep reading. In Captain America, we're rooting for little skinny, scrawny Steve Rogers. We want to see what's going to happen to him. In the Avengers, we're rooting for Dr. David Banner. We're waiting for him to struggle with that internal conflict of if he's going to go all Hulk. In Beowulf, we listen to him boast about how strong he is so that we can then see if he really can take over and kill the monster Grendel. So characters are everything. And the last one, theme. Theme is what you came for. Theme is the central belief or topic of the story. It's why the author has done all these tricks to get you to the last page so that you can get the moral or the lesson of the story. Typically, theme is always going to be abstract. And the author uses this for plot, setting, conflict, and characters to help develop the theme. And he uses one more device, what I like to call the SBD. So, what are the SBDs? SBD stands for Suspense Building Devices. And therefore, Vip number 5, let's go to pacing first, getting ahead. So the first one is pacing. Pacing is how quickly or how slowly the author tells the story to the reader. A slow pace is going to create urgency. When you have a story that's just building, it creates urgency. You want to know what's going to happen. TV series authors and writers do this. They create urgency in you. They build and build and build and build until you finally can't take no more. And then, of course, they give the Thanksgiving or the winter cliffhanger. So, in pacing, you're all about building the tension. Slower pace or faster pace. When you have a fast-paced story, that's going to keep you at the edge of your seat. An action-packed, fast-paced story keeps you at the edge of your seat. The next we have is exposition. Remember, that's the very first stage of plot. So exposition is where you get the background info, events, setting, and characters to the reader. So it's very important because it's where suspense is first built. It's used also to give the reader critical information, and it sets the stage for future events. The next one, foreshadowing. Foreshadowing are those clues or hints of what's coming next. It helps develop readers' expectations. In The Most Dangerous Game, there are different clues that the author puts into the very first chapter deliberately to let you know what's going on. In Julius Caesar, you have the soothsayer who says, "Beware the Ides of March." That is foreshadowing, where the author is building up suspense because you know there's an important date you have to focus on, the 15th of March. And then lastly, we have time manipulation, back to the future. This is where the author changes the natural flow that he set up or she set up in the story. There's three types of time manipulation. A flashback, it gives you information about the character's past. So once again, you'll be completely invested in the character. Harry Potter, the Harry Potter movies, you get a little flashbacks of Severus Snape, his entire story, where you really honestly then begin to feel pity for him and realize he's done everything to help Harry, even though he could not like Harry. Flash forward. This is where you take the reader beyond the present. You let the reader see what's going to happen to the reader in the future, and then you go back to the past. This way it builds suspense because you know what's going to happen to the character, but you can't stop it. So you just have to be like, you have this sense of urgency and this sense of tension build up when you have an author that uses flash forward. And then lastly, you have a time lapse. Time lapse is where it's a deliberate skip over. In the movie Limitless, you have this main character, David Mora. He's taking this pill, NZT. And then you see him doing all these amazing things, and then it skips 2 days later. And then he has to go back to figure out what happened. And he takes you, the viewer, or the reader with him. So, plot, setting, characters, conflict, theme, combined with the SVD devices are the tricks of the trade the author uses to keep you hooked, thus by creating mystery, tension, and suspense. So let's get reading and let's get deciphering. Check you later.